All right, so today we are diving into dopamine decor. It's this really cool design trend. It's all about creating a home that boosts your happiness, like a happiness maven. We've got some really interesting sources for this one. There's an online shop that actually sells dopamine decor products. And we also have some articles from design blogs and even a piece from a Spanish magazine about how it affects your mood. So get ready because we're going to unpack what this is all about and how you can use it to make your own space a joy generator.
You know, it's fascinating because dopamine decor really represents a shift in how we think about interior design. It's not just about pretty rooms anymore. It's about using design to actually improve how you feel when you're at home.
Yeah, it's like our homes are getting an emotional upgrade. But I'm kind of curious, though, like, how is dopamine decor different from just decorating with things you like?
Well, that's where the science comes in. Dopamine decor is specifically about understanding how colors, patterns, textures can trigger actual dopamine release in your brain. Dopamine is basically the brain's feel-good chemical, and the style is all about hacking your environment to make you feel happier.
Whoa, that's pretty wild. So it's not just about surrounding yourself with, like, things that make you smile. It's about understanding how those things actually affect your brain chemistry.
Exactly. And it's interesting because it's a huge shift from the minimalism we've been seeing for years. Dopamine decor is all about maximalism. Think bold colors, playful patterns, and lots of personality.
Hold on, maximalism? I mean, that sounds like it could get kind of overwhelming. How do you make sure a maximalist room doesn't just end up looking like a cluttered mess?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maximalism in design, it's not just about cramming in as much stuff as possible. It's more about carefully curating a collection of things that you love and then arranging them in a way that feels visually balanced and energetic.
Oh, okay. So it's not just like throwing a bunch of colorful stuff together. It's about being thoughtful about how those colors and patterns interact.
Right. And it's interesting to see how this is showing up in different cultures. You know, that Spanish magazine article we have points out that dopamine decor is becoming really popular in Spain, but they're adapting it to their own aesthetic, you know, using more natural textures and traditional patterns.
Oh, okay. So it's not just a one-size-fits-all trend. It's about finding what brings you joy and then using these principles to create a space that feels unique to your personality.
Exactly. And, you know, a lot of this comes from the dopamine dressing trend, which, if you remember, was all about wearing clothes that make you happy. And now it's moving into our homes. It's focusing on how our surroundings can impact our mood and even our creativity.
Right, right. So if wearing like a bright yellow shirt can give you a boost, imagine what a whole room designed with that in mind could do. Okay, so let's actually break down the elements of dopamine decor. What are we talking about here?
Well, color is absolutely key. Think bright, saturated hues, sunny yellows, vibrant pinks, electric blues, playful greens. One of the design blocks we have actually talks about a loft with a full-size pink smeg fridge.
A pink fridge. I don't know about that, but I do love how this trend encourages you to be bold and playful with color. It's like giving your home a shot of espresso.
Exactly. And it's not just about solid colors either. Patterns play a huge role too. Polka dots, stripes, florals, geometric designs, mixing and matching patterns is encouraged, which again is a big change from those more traditional matched decor styles.
It's interesting that e-commerce site, we have list teal and even magenta sofas as like dopamine decor. And I can see how those bold colors would make a statement. But wouldn't all that visual stimulation be kind of overwhelming after a while?
That's a good point. And that's where understanding the psychology behind color and pattern really comes in. For example, you know, warm colors like yellow and orange are said to be energizing, while cool colors like blue and green can be more calming. It's all about finding the right balance for your needs.
So it's not just about picking whatever colors look pretty. It's about being strategic about the kind of mood you want to create in each room.
Right. And then there's texture, which, you know, often gets overlooked. But dopamine decor is all about layering different textures. Think soft velvets, cozy knits, smooth ceramics, natural materials like wood and rattan. It's about creating a space that's visually interesting and also appeals to your sense of touch.
Yeah, I can see how that tactile element could add a lot of depth and personality to a room. It's like you're creating a whole sensory experience, not just a visual one.
Exactly. And, you know, all of this leads to a much more expressive, personalized style. It's about choosing furniture and decor that reflects your unique personality and makes you feel happy.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of eclectic furniture in our sources. Vintage velvet armchairs, bone inlay tables, scalloped jute rugs, even things like butterfly-shaped cushions. It's like mixing different styles and eras to create a look that's uniquely you.
And that's a hallmark of dopamine decor, that emphasis on individuality. It's not about following a set of rules. It's about creating a space that feels authentically you.
It's like giving yourself permission to be bold and playful with your decor. I love that. But, okay, I have to admit, I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed. Like, where do you even begin with all this?
Yeah, that's a common feeling when you first start exploring this trend. But the beauty of it is that you don't need to redecorate your entire house to embrace it. Start small, focus on what brings you joy, and gradually incorporate those elements into your space.
Okay, so maybe start with one room or even just one corner of a room. Okay, I'm feeling a bit more manageable now. Let's break it down room by room and see how we can apply these dopamine decor principles to create some seriously happy spaces.
Let's do it. Where do you want to start?
Welcome back. So last time we were really diving headfirst into dopamine decor, what it is, the science behind it, those vibrant colors and playful patterns. But now I want to know, how do we actually make this work in a home?
Well, before we get too caught up in the decorating itself, I think it's important to remember that this isn't just about aesthetics, Dopamine decor is really about how our surroundings can actually affect our mental and emotional well-being.
Yeah, it's like we're actually designing our homes to be mood boosters. And speaking of mood, that Spanish magazine article we mentioned, they actually talk about how this style can help reduce stress, boost creativity, and even make you more productive.
It makes total sense when you think about it. I mean, our environment has a huge impact on how we feel. Just imagine trying to relax in a dark, cluttered room versus a bright, airy space full of things that you love. There's a real difference there.
Yeah, totally. It's like your home is giving you a hug. But I think what's really interesting is that it's all about, making conscious choices about your space. You're not just blindly following trends. It's about really curating your environments to support how you want to feel.
Exactly. And those choices can be big or small, like adding some flowers to your desk or a few colorful pillows on your couch, even just rearranging your bookshelves. Like, all of those things can actually shift the energy of a room.
And I love that this really encourages personal expression. It's not about creating a cookie-cutter home. It's about letting your own personality shine through in your decor.
That's what makes it so empowering, Your home should feel like a sanctuary, a place where you can relax, recharge, and feel inspired.
Okay, I'm on board with the whole concept. But what about those people who aren't ready to go full-on rainbow explosion in their homes? Is there a way to incorporate some of these ideas without going overboard?
Absolutely. Remember, this is all about what brings you joy. So if you're not ready for a bright yellow wall or a pink sofa, that's totally fine. Just start with small, subtle touches, like maybe swap out some neutral pillows with a fun pattern, or, add a few brightly colored accessories to your shelves. You can also play with textures, like add a cozy knit throw or a velvet cushion.
Right. I mean, those pops of color and texture can make a big difference. What about lighting? Does that factor into dopamine decor at all?
Absolutely. Lighting is so important for creating that positive and uplifting atmosphere. Natural light is always best, so try to maximize that as much as possible. But you can also use artificial lighting to create different moods. Think warm, inviting light bulbs, maybe even some string lights for a touch of whimsy.
Oh, I can picture it now, like a cozy reading nook with a comfy armchair, a colorful throw, and a nice warm lamp, casting a soft glow over everything.
Exactly. And that's what dopamine decor is all about. Creating spaces that just feel good to be in. Spaces that encourage relaxation, creativity, and a sense of well-being.
This feels like a good point to maybe pause and reflect a little. We've talked about the psychological benefits of dopamine decor, how to personalize your space, and even the importance of lighting.
Yeah, I think in part 3 we'll dive into some more practical tips, like budget-friendly ideas and how to make this work for different lifestyles. We'll also talk about how to balance boldness with harmony so that your space doesn't end up feeling too chaotic.
But before we wrap up this section, I think it's really important to emphasize that dopamine decor isn't just a trend. It's a mindset.
Absolutely. It's about being intentional about the spaces we create, and recognizing that powerful connection between our surroundings and our well-being. It's about embracing individuality, surrounding ourselves with things that spark joy, and creating homes that truly reflect who we are.
I love that. So before we jump into part 3, I want you to take a look around your own space. What's one thing, just one thing that you could add today to make it feel a little more joyful? Maybe a colorful throw pillow, a piece of art, a plant, whatever it is. Just think about how you can use your space to really boost your mood and make you feel more at home.
We'll be back soon with more tips and inspiration.
Welcome back for the final part of our Dopamine Decor deep dive. It feels like we've been on this amazing journey together, figuring out how to make our homes not just visually appealing, but places that actually boost our mood.
It really has been quite a journey. We've talked about the science, the psychology of color, how to make your space reflect you.
Yeah, and now I'm really ready to get into like the nitty-gritty of making it all happen. But I have to admit, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, Like, where do we even start with all of this?
I get it. It's easy to feel that way with so many possibilities. It can feel like you need to completely redo your entire house. But remember, it's not about doing everything at once. Start small, maybe just focus on one room or even a corner of a room, and you can build from there.
That makes me feel better already. But I think a lot of people might be worried about the cost or that they have a small space. So how do we do dopamine decor without breaking the bank or feeling overwhelmed?
Well, one of the best things you can do is change how you think about it. Instead of thinking about what you need to buy, look at what you already have.
Oh, you mean like shop your home like we talked about before?
Exactly. Go through your house and see what makes you happy, what sparks joy. Maybe it's some old books, a colorful blanket you haven't used in ages. Sometimes just moving things around and rediscovering what you have can make a big difference.
That's so true. We always think we need new stuff, but we have so many treasures already.
Right. And if you do want something new, get creative and do it yourself. Like a fresh coat of paint can totally change an old piece of furniture. And you can find cheap fabrics and stuff to make your own curtains, pillows, even art.
I love DIY project. It's so satisfying to make something beautiful yourself.
And it makes your space unique, too. Don't forget about those sentimental things you have, like photos or souvenirs. Those add so much warmth and personality to your home.
Like they tell a story. But it's not just about putting them out. It's about using them in your decor in a creative way, like maybe framing photos in mismatched frames or grouping souvenirs with candles and plants.
Yeah, finding cool ways to show what's meaningful to you. Now, about small spaces, you can definitely do dopamine decor in tiny apartments or studios. You got to think vertically, use mirrors to make it look bigger, and choose furniture with more than one use.
Okay, so like instead of a big coffee table, you could get a smaller ottoman that opens up for storage.
Exactly. Use shelves and hooks on the walls to keep things off the floor. And don't be afraid of bold colors and patterns, even in a small space.
This is all so helpful. I'm feeling much less overwhelmed. But before we finish, let's talk about that balance between boldness and harmony you mentioned before. How do we have all this vibrancy without it feeling chaotic?
That's the key, isn't it? You gotta have balance and make it all fit together. One way is to pick a few colors you love and use them throughout the space, even if you have lots of different patterns and textures.
So pick maybe 3 or 4 colors and weave them in, even just a little bit here and there.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to repeat those colors and patterns. That actually creates a nice rhythm and makes things more interesting.
It's like they're all talking to each other.
Exactly, and using some neutral things like white walls or a plain rug helps to ground the space and keep it from being too busy.
So it's like giving your eyes a place to rest.
Right, finding that balance between stimulation and calmness.
This has been so helpful. I feel like I can actually do this now.
I'm glad to hear that. Remember, the most important thing is to have fun and be yourself. Don't be afraid to experiment, try new things, make your space a reflection of who you are.
This whole dopamine decor deep dive has been amazing. So to wrap up, just remember that your home should make you happy, inspire you, and be a place where you feel at ease.
Let dopamine decor be your guide to creating a space that really nourishes you.
Until next time, happy decorating, everyone.